Before Apple, before Amazon, before Google, there was Ford. One man's vision that didn't just change an industry. It fundamentally transformed how Americans lived, worked, and moved across their expanding nation. In 1908, less than 10% of Americans owned a car. By 1927, thanks to one revolutionary vehicle, the Ford Model T, that number had exploded to over 55%. Behind this automotive revolution stood a complex figure, a farm boy who hated farming, a mechanical genius with limited formal education, and a businessman whose approach to industry would forever alter the economic landscape of America. In today's episode of Cars We Dream, we're exploring the real Henry Ford, a man whose vision transformed not just how cars were built, but how Americans worked, lived, and viewed the world around them. So, what allowed this farm boy from Dearborn, Michigan, to see possibilities where others saw only limitations? Let's find out. Henry Ford was born on July 30th, 1863, during the Civil War, on a farm in Michigan, about 9 miles outside of Detroit. His father, William Ford, was an Irish immigrant who had escaped the potato famine. Young Henry was expected to follow his father as a farmer, but from an early age, he was captivated by machines instead of agriculture. In 1876, at age 12, two events transformed Ford's life. His mother died, leaving a profound void, and he encountered a steam engine on a country road, sparking his lifelong mechanical obsession. According to Ford's own recollections, this moment was an epiphany. By 16, he had built a functional steam engine of his own, putting him at odds with his father, who saw little future in these endeavors. In December 1879, at just 16 years old, Henry Ford left the family farm for Detroit, taking an apprenticeship and beginning his journey into the mechanical world. Over the next decade, Ford moved between jobs, working at Westinghouse, servicing steam engines, briefly returning to operate a sawmill, and taking night classes in bookkeeping. By the 1890s, a new technology had captured his imagination: the internal combustion engine. In 1891, Ford became an engineer at the Edison Illuminating Company in Detroit, earning $45 monthly. More importantly, this job gave him time to tinker with gasoline engines during his off hours. In a small shed behind his Detroit home, Henry Ford began work on what would become his obsession: building a reliable, efficient horseless carriage for the American public. After years of experimentation, on June 4th, 1896, Ford completed his first working vehicle, the Quadricycle. With 4 bicycle wheels and a 4-horsepower engine, it reached speeds of 20 miles per hour. This creation caught the attention of Thomas Edison, whom Ford met at a convention. Edison's encouragement, "Young man, that's the thing, keep at it," gave Ford renewed confidence. With financial backing from lumber baron William H. Murphy, Ford founded his first automotive venture, the Detroit Automobile Company, in 1899. But it quickly failed after producing just 20 vehicles that were too expensive for most Americans. Not deterred, Ford rebuilt his reputation through automobile racing. In 1901, he designed and raced a car that defeated Alexander Winton, the country's premier automobile racer. Ford's victory attracted new investors, but history repeated itself with his second company, the Henry Ford Company. Disagreements with investors, who wanted luxury vehicles instead of Ford's vision for simpler cars, led to his departure. The company he left would eventually become Cadillac. After another successful racing venture with his 999 race car, Ford secured new backing and established Ford and Malcolmson Limited in 1903. On June 16, 1903, with additional investment, the Ford Motor Company was officially incorporated. Ford, holding just 25.5% of the stock, finally had the platform to realize his automotive vision. Between 1903 and 1908, the Ford Motor Company produced 8 different models. These early cars were experiments, Ford testing different concepts while building his reputation. Ford was increasingly convinced that the future wasn't in luxury vehicles, but in affordable cars for everyday Americans. "I will build a motor car for the great multitude," he often said. By October 1st, 1908, Ford and his team had unveiled the Model T. Priced at $825, about $25,000 today, it offered unprecedented value for its quality and durability. The Model T featured a 20-horsepower engine, simple transmission, high ground clearance for rural roads, and vanadium steel construction, lighter and stronger than conventional steel. The car was an immediate hit, with over 10,000 sold in its first year. But Ford wasn't satisfied. He was obsessed with making it even more affordable through efficient production. In 1910, Ford moved production to his massive Highland Park facility, nicknamed the Crystal Palace for its large windows that reduced electricity costs. Then, in April 1913, Ford's team asked a revolutionary question. Instead of workers moving to the cars, what if the cars moved to the workers? They first tried the concept with a single component, the flywheel magneto. By breaking the task into 29 separate operations performed along a moving line, they reduced assembly time from 20 minutes to just 5 minutes. By December 1913, they had applied the moving assembly line to the entire automobile assembly process. Before this innovation, it took approximately 12 hours to build a Model T. Afterward, just 93 minutes. Production soared from 82,388 cars in 1912 to 189,088 in 1913. But the monotony of assembly line work was crushing. Worker turnover at Highland Park skyrocketed to 380% in 1913. Ford needed to hire 52,000 workers just to maintain a workforce of 13,600. Ford's solution shocked the world. On January 5th, 1914, he announced the $5 day, more than doubling his workers' pay from the standard $2.34 to $5 per day. The announcement of Ford's $5 day created a sensation. Thousands of job seekers descended on the Highland Park factory, with police dispersing crowds using fire hoses in freezing weather. Business leaders called Ford's decision socialist or crazy. But Ford saw what critics missed. The owner, the employees, and the buying public are all one and the same. Unless an industry can keep wages high and prices low, it destroys itself by limiting its customers. This philosophy, later called Fordism, created a virtuous economic cycle expanding both production and consumption, growing the middle class. The $5 day came with conditions. Ford established a sociological department that investigated workers' homes to ensure they lived clean, sober, and efficient lives, a blend of paternalism and genuine welfare concern. The business results were undeniable. Worker turnover plummeted, productivity soared, and as production efficiencies increased, Ford continuously lowered the Model T's price, from $825 in 1908 to just $260 by 1925. By 1918, half of all cars in America were Model Ts. Ford expanded worldwide, setting up assembly plants from England to Japan. In 1916, when shareholders objected to Ford's plans to reinvest profits into a massive new manufacturing complex, Ford's response was extraordinary. He bought them all out for $105 million, over $2.5 billion today, taking complete control of his company. With complete ownership, Ford built the River Rouge complex, the largest integrated factory in the world, where raw materials entered one end and finished cars emerged from the other. By May 1927, Ford had produced the 15 millionth Model T. The car that put America on wheels had transformed not just transportation, but society itself. By the mid-1920s, the Model T was becoming outdated. While Ford had refined its mechanics, the basic design remained largely unchanged since 1908. Meanwhile, competitors offered innovations like electric starters and variety in models and colors. Ford's market dominance eroded from 60% in 1921 to 30% by 1926. The same stubborn determination that powered Ford's rise now worked against him as he resisted modernization. Finally, in May 1927, Ford shut down production of the Model T to develop an entirely new model, the Model A. For 6 months, no new Fords were produced as engineers developed a modern vehicle. Beyond business challenges, Henry Ford's legacy is complicated by troubling personal beliefs. In 1919, Ford purchased the Dearborn Independent newspaper and used it to promote anti-Semitic views. For 91 consecutive weeks, the paper published articles attacking Jewish people. These writings, later compiled into a book called The International Jew, were distributed internationally and even influenced Nazi ideology in Germany. In 1927, Ford was sued for libel by Aaron Shapiro, a Jewish lawyer targeted in the paper. Ford ultimately issued a public apology, claiming unawareness of the paper's content. As the Great Depression took hold, Ford also fiercely resisted unionization, culminating in the infamous Battle of the Overpass in 1937, when Ford security men attacked union organizers while photographers captured the brutality. During World War II, Ford's manufacturing prowess contributed significantly to the Allied effort. The Ford-built Willow Run plant produced a B-24 Liberator bomber every 63 minutes, a remarkable application of assembly line principles to aircraft production. On April 7, 1947, at age 83, Henry Ford passed away at his Fair Lane estate in Dearborn. Today, Ford's assembly line principles have evolved into sophisticated manufacturing systems worldwide. The $5 day helped establish a middle-class standard of living, and affordable transportation has spread globally. The Model T didn't just change transportation, it transformed America's landscape, enabling suburbs to flourish, highways to connect regions, and people to work far from where they lived. The Ford Motor Company remains one of the world's largest automakers, producing over 4 million vehicles annually, with the family still maintaining significant ownership. Henry Ford wasn't the first to build an automobile or even use an assembly line. His genius was in combining and refining these ideas at scale, establishing a blueprint for innovation that entrepreneurs from Steve Jobs to Elon Musk have followed, seeing not just what is, but what could be. Today, as we stand at another transportation crossroads with electric vehicles and autonomous driving emerging, it's worth remembering how completely one man's vision transformed our world. The story of Henry Ford is about the power of vision, the impact of democratizing technology, and the complex humans behind world-changing innovations. From his $5 day to the moving assembly line, from the Model T to the massive River Rouge plant, Ford didn't just build cars. He built systems that change how we think about work, consumption, and mobility itself. Now I'd love to hear from you. What aspects of Ford's innovation approach do you think modern companies should adopt? And what lessons can today's entrepreneurs learn from both his successes and his failures? Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into automotive history, be sure to subscribe to Cars We Dream for more stories about the vehicles and visionaries that shaped our world. And want to remind you that behind every great car is a fascinating human story waiting to be told. Thanks for watching.